Okay, let's have a look under the bridge cover. So this is one of the components that you often don't see, one of the components that's often missing. So let's keep all of these pieces safe. Right, okay, so it's not quite as as grotty as I thought it would be. Got a piece of foam which is actually glued to the underside of the cover there, so that's obviously for dampening the strings. Right, so let's have a closer look at the bridge cum towel piece, and I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing actually. If you remember, I said that the intonation, particularly on the E string, was way out, and as you can see there's loads of room there for adjustments, so this portion of the saddle can go right the way back, and the only thing that's stopping it from going right the way back is this spring. That spring is fully compressed, so by cutting that spring and getting rid of a few of the coils, I should be able to take that back and improve the compensation for the intonation. So I'm very heartened by that. So I'm going to take the neck off so I can see what's happening with the truss rod, and also to put a shim between the underside of the neck here and the body, which hopefully will raise the action. Let's see what these screws are like. Ooh. I'm not sure about that. We're going to need a bigger screwdriver. Yep, there we go. There we go. Quite a bit of corrosion on those. Hopefully they'll clean up. If not, I'll replace them. And there we go. The last one. Last one coming out. Right. All the bits bagged up and kept safe. Oh, that's interesting. There's another couple of holes there. Interesting. Oh, somebody put some other screws in there. Am I about to discover something nasty? Right. So fortunately the neck has come out. No idea about those holes there. Yeah, a bit weird. And in fact, when you look, they've been sort of filled in with glue. So yeah, that one will remain a mystery. So here we are with the neck. What I've done is clamped it to this large flat piece of wood. I've put a shim at either end, clamped it in the middle. So the idea is that I'm bending the neck in this direction, entirely in the opposite direction as to what it was. My idea being that if I do that, that should give me a little bit of slack at the truss rod end there. So at the business end here, I've put a washer between the nut and the kind of the end plate of the truss rod. I was a bit wary that if I had to do this up a lot, the nut might bottom out on the end of the thread on the truss rod. So putting that washer there should give me another millimetre or so. I've let some WD-40 run down the truss rod, so maybe that clears any corrosion. And I've tightened it up, and I can feel that that's really quite stiff now. And I could hear a kind of a grinding, flexing noise as I was tightening the truss rod up. So hopefully that's going to work. So I'm going to leave that for an hour or so, let it settle, and then we can see whether or not that's been successful. So I've adjusted it, and really that looks pretty good. So I think it's going to be a question of putting this back onto the body, stringing it up and seeing whether or not it holds. But yeah, so far so good. So I'm trying to see whether or not I can get the intonation correct. So I've taken those springs completely off, replaced the screws that were there with some M3 ones and use some nuts to lock the saddle into that position. I've taken that saddle a long way back. It's about 10mm back on that E string, so hopefully the intonation will be better. So when I put it back together in a minute, we can see how that pans out. Well, as you can see, I've put the bass back together. Now, at the end of the last video, I must admit I was a bit overwhelmed with all of the issues that I had discovered, and beginning to question whether or not this was going to be a viable project. But the point of this session was to try to get all of those issues solved in a kind of rough and ready manner. So what I guess I've proved to myself is, yes, this is a viable project. I can sort out the intonation, I've sorted out the warped neck, and I sorted out the action here. I know where I'm going. I've got my road map, as people like to say these days. Clearly we've got the rewiring issue, but I don't foresee any problems there. So what I'm going to do now then is strip it all down and say do all these little odds and ends with a little bit more finesse, so that when it's finally put together, it's certainly going to be playing better than when it ever left the factory, and it's really going to be a nice little bass guitar. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch this, and yeah, see you in the next episode. Okay, cheers then, take care.